Okay, I'm working on the 747. Space Shuttle is drying with paint. Right along here, let me zoom in just a teeny bit. Okay, right along the bottom of the shuttle. I think I need to get a new camera or something. Right along the bottom of the 747. What we have is some light gray stripes. What I got when I did that was this stuff. It is Mr. Surfacer 500. The putty wasn't coming out 100% even. In fact, if I zoom in a little bit more, you can kind of see it right there. Even though the camera isn't 100% focused on it, you can still see it in the wavering of the silver light. But it was far worse. In fact, if you notice, all up through here, that came out real smooth. And if I do some painting where that Mr. Surfacer is down here in the back, and yes, I'm being pretty liberal with the silver paint today, but there's reasons for that. It's got to be focusing by looking at the image. There it goes. Now I just put silver paint over the top of that Mr. Surfacer, and you'll notice that that seam line is almost completely gone. Now the putty work I do is fine, but it leaves little imperfections, and Mr. Surfacer is there to get rid of little imperfections. Okay? So that's what I'm using it for. I still have a few spots to sand on this thing, but not many. I'm almost done with the seam filling on it. Yay! Yay! That means that I will be able to finish putting her together pretty soon. Great thing to me. One other last detail I noticed. I was looking at my reference photos again. And I'm not going to fix this because the model's half assembled. But this row of windows, right along here, they just don't exist in the reference photos. There's like 3 of them. I could have filled all those in except for 3. Oh well, that's the way life is. But again, I'm almost done with the seam filling. I got a little bit more to do and this thing's going to be done. Be back with an update in a bit. Okay, what you're looking at here is 5 hours worth of taping. Let me zoom in so you guys can get a better look at it. Okay, 5 hours worth of taping here. What I'm trying to replicate is what I see on the Space Shuttle photos that I have. I'm not going to get it 100% accurate. This thing's a little on the small side. The model itself is inaccurate. The whole nose of this thing is too pointy. The Space Shuttle's got a more rounded nose. I'm not going to hack the nose off and correct it. I'm not one of these rivet counters. Okay, I want to get close, but not so close I go nuts in frustration of trying to be accurate. I want to have fun while I'm trying to get it close. Besides, your common everyday person who would be viewing this model would never know that it's inaccurate anyhow. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is go paint this thing white. I know, I already painted it white. I'm taping off to paint it black. So what the hell? Why am I painting it white? Here's why I'm going to paint it white. First coat you put down under tape. Let me say that again. The first coat you put down after you're done taping is where you get your color leak, under the tape. So if I didn't burnish the edges of the tape all the way across 100% accurately, I will have color leaking under the tape. Well, if I paint it white, I get white leaking under the tape, and that seals the tape down. So my next coat shouldn't leak underneath the tape. So I'm going to give her a good white coat, and when I'm done with the white coat, then I'll give her the black coat. Okay? When I'm done with that, I have a teeny bit more typing because there's some gray spots on the shuttle. And when we're done with that, I get to start talking about weathering and washes, because I'm going to weather this sucker. Space Shuttle, when it's been in space, gets beat up. It gets burnt. So there's lots of burnt spots on it. So I get to have some fun, get some burnt umber, and tan the thing down in certain spots. So I get to have some fun with some weathering on this. Okay? Now, I got to reach down to the floor. This thing has been the biggest piece of turd I've had in a model in a while. The shuttle went together fairly well. There's some bad seamage on the shuttle, but I'm just ignoring it. The bad seamage is around the nose. It'll be hard to see once it's painted black anyhow. So I'm just ignoring that on the shuttle. This guy, I've gotten rid of 90% of the bad seams. And what happened is the front split apart on me. I was holding it and all of a sudden I heard a crack. And let me zoom in so you guys can see this real well. Okay, get her in some light. You can see from here all the way around to the nose, and then when I turn her over all the way back to here, it's split. And I have to redo that whole seam line along there. The rest of it, the seam lines are gone. For the most part, this needs a little bit of sanding with some high grit sandpaper. But for the most part, the seam lines are gone. I just got to get them around this nose again, and those are easy to get rid of. Those should be gone tomorrow evening at the most. But I've got a good 8 or 9 hours of seam work on this thing, because in part, well, you know, I'm good with the Sargent's white. The problem is it's a gritty putty, and you reach a certain point where it can't work anymore. So that's what slows me down. Plus, this thing back here was unlevel. Okay? I mean, it was badly unlevel. So I had to level it out and get it looking right. A friend of mine said, why bother? Because the space shuttle is going to sit right on top of it. And I said, well, I will know. Plus, this thing gets painted white, gray, and silver, and seams show on silver paint. So I'm going to go ahead and get those seams taken care of. Then I'm going to rescore this thing. I'll show you guys how I rescore lines when I get there. Okay, there's a couple of methods. I'm going to try a new method on part of this. Something I've thought of. I didn't see on the internet. We'll see how that works. Alright, that's that short segment right there. Painted on the Space Shuttle 747. Space Shuttle has been taped and painted white. Haven't painted it black yet because of this thing. That big spot right there. The holes are for mounting on the 747. That, I have no idea why that is even there. Okay, the Space Shuttle is too dang small to be a model for practically anything else unless they have a really small Space Shuttle kit with the Space Shuttle mounted on the tank. But even if they had that, you would use these 3 holes because the 747 used the same mounting brackets as the external fuel tank did for the 747. So I don't understand this, but I'm going to patch that up and then give her black coat. Okay? So now, 747 time. I wanted to build this with the landing gear up. So I started looking at the kit parts. The doors that cover up the landing gear bays don't go all the way across them. So you don't have the option of building it with gear up or gear down. Now I could get some sheet styrene, I have plenty of that laying around, and fill in the gaps. Could. Okay. I decided against that because I'm already not liking this model. Why should I spend a lot more time on something I'm not liking? This thing has driven me nuts. Okay? I like the subject, not the model itself. I should have bought a different brand model, paid some more money, got a better one. Didn't. Okay? My fault. So I'm trying to make the best I can out of this. This plate right here, I glued it on this morning. And in the meantime, cracked the seam open here and up here, so I got to refill those. This plate does not fit completely. Let me zoom in on this a little further. And of course my camera's focus issues are hitting us right now. It just doesn't like focusing on these models. But right along here, this doesn't match up with anything. And if this thing would focus a teeny bit better, life would be happier. It doesn't line up properly. There's huge gaps on this thing. Okay? So I'm going to have to take a file to this corner right here and get rid of that whole corner and round it off like the rest of the hole is on the 747. or it's going to look obnoxious. Okay, and again, the landing gear doors don't cover up that spot. Now, one other thing that's really annoying me. Let me get a sprue. One good thing about this is I am learning how to review model kits as I put up with this turd. Okay? I'm calling it a turd because they could have done so many things to this model, engineering-wise, to make it so much better without costing them hardly any money. Just design flaws, like the engines. Okay? I've already put 3 of the 4 engines together. They have horrible seam lines, just like the 747 did. It's funny, the Space Shuttle had almost no seam lines and everything else does. I don't get it, but that's beside the point. On the sprue, see how the engine part connects to the sprue here and here? Why didn't they flip this part over and have it connect over here? And somewhere inside there, inside the engine bell itself, so that when you clip it off, you don't have anything to trim off. Okay? That would have made putting these things together so much better. Now, here's what I mean by horrible, horrible seam lines. Let me get hold of one of them. And hopefully this thing will quit focusing on the background and focus on Mr. Engine part. Now, you can see right across the top right here, there is a huge bad spot that I'm going to have to putty and fill. On the underside, you can see that seam running right along the whole length of the engine. I'm going to have to putty and fill that. The happy thought is I'm getting a lot more comfortable with Mr. Surfacer 500 right now, and I'm actually using it for most of my filling work on these small little seams like this. I think that's what it's really designed for. You just paint it on, it kind of auto levels itself across the seam, and then you sand it down to match the existing contours. There are scribe lines along this thing, and they are indented instead of raised, which makes me happy. I'm going to have to rescribe those after I'm done seam filling, so hopefully this doesn't take me as long as that 747 is taken, because I've spent a good week doing nothing but seam filling on that 747, and we're talking about working on it an hour or 2 a day. Okay? So I get this done, these 4 engines done, I'm going to be happy, because that should be the last of the nasty seam work on this thing, which means I'll be able to start painting it really soon. I've already got some ideas on how it's going to get painted, because the wings are, from the photos I have, let me get back to me. From the photos I have, we're not talking about box art, we're not talking about paint calls on the instructions. I went on the internet and got photos. NASA's proud of this thing, there's plenty of photos of it. From the photos I have, the wings are bright aluminum, underbelly is gray, the top half is white. So I plan on painting the wings aluminum. Not going to use Tamiya paint for that. Although I think the silver Tamiya paint would work, I'm going to use a Rust-Oleum product. It's called a metallizer paint. It has actual aluminum powder in the paint, so you can kind of polish it up and make it shiny. That's what I'm going to use on the wings. Okay? The rest of the plane, again, is going to be Tamiya paints. I haven't got the color calls yet, and I haven't really looked at it closely, because I'm not done with it yet. Space Shuttle, it's going to get its black coat tomorrow. I'm going to be done with that Space Shuttle pretty quickly. Okay? But this stuff, the 747, no. No. Just pissing me off. Well, there we go.